At this time, Geraldine Farrar has a special pleasure for us. She has invited into our little boudoir box the distinguished tenor Giovanni Martinelli, one of the most celebrated of Metropolitan Opera stars, who was heard some weeks ago in this matinee opera series singing the role of Don Alvaro in La Porta del Destino. So we take you into the adjoining box to hear Miss Farrar chat with Giovanni Martinelli. We present Geraldine Farrar.
Good afternoon, my radio opera friends. When the casual opera goer hears a performance, he is delighted, or at least we hope so, with the fine voices and the dramatic vigor of the musical picture that proceeds along its way to the general denouement. But he probably little realizes how necessary to the finished artistry of the performance, and hence to his own complete satisfaction, are the personal relations established backstage. A vocalist may have superlative talents before the footlights, but if he is not a genial comrade, the confidence and ease that makes all the company delight in ensemble effects is likely to be lacking, and the results will be less than perfect. The performance cannot help but suffer if one member is out of mood. Now our guest of today is the most consistently genial and agreeable comrade possible to imagine. You need only see his flashing smile and hear his hearty greeting to know that Giovanni Martinelli is an all-round good fellow, deservedly popular with his audiences and his fellow artists. The two of us have sung much together. I have pulled his hair in Carmen, tweaked his ear in Zaza, embraced him passionately in Tosca, and sat with him in Marguerite's garden. In fact, we have been stage sweethearts times innumerable. So it is a particular pleasure to ask him here today as my guest, that you may hear from him something quite personal. Now tell me, Giovanni, where was it you first began singing?
Oh, that was when I was very small, a little boy living in the town of Montagnana, not far away from Venice.
Venice? Well, that makes you a water baby.
Yes, a water baby. But I didn't learn to swim until I came to America. And then I learned in a swimming pool in the mountains in Monroe, near New York.
Well, of course, you learned to sing right from the start. Every Italian does.
Well, I started as a boy soprano in the church choir. An old priest gave me lessons. And then, every fall, when we had an opera season, I would peep through the door with the other children. We all had ambition to sing in opera.
And did you get a chance there?
Once, they gave Carmen and let me sing a part as one of the small boys. You know, Geraldine, the part that goes la 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 la.
Yes, I remember very well.
I started about that time to play the clarinet, too. But it was much later when I was in the army, drafted, you know, for 3-year service, that I really took up singing seriously.
Why, how was that, Giovanni?
One night, the bandmaster heard me sing in the barracks. He said, "Giovanni, was it you?" I said, "Maestro, it was I." So he said, "Such a voice can be educated." The result was, in a short time, I was studied at Milano, and after 2 years, I made my debut.
Was your family proud of you for becoming an opera singer?
Well, no. My father did not think I should do it. He refused to give me permission and wanted me to come home and work in his shop. You see, he knew only the opera singers that came to my little hometown. They were not very good. Sometimes the townspeople would have to take up a collection to send them home.
Oh.
My father said, "Why should Giovanni pass the hat when he has a good home?"
Well, after he realized your career was out of the passing the hat category, he must have cheered up.
Oh, Papa was so happy then, and all my family too.
Now tell us something about your debut in Milano.
I made my debut about the same time as 3 of my colleagues, Tito Schipper, Claudia Muzio, and Amelita Gallicucci. We all started in Milano then in the secondary season, the popular prize season.
Oh, that's very interesting. And how did your debut go?
I had my troubles. 3 or 4 times in the main area my voice cracked, but the audience called out, "Keep on, Giovanni, keep on!" Then, during the second act, my bed broke and my sword fell on the stage.
Well, in view of what happened once in Zaza, you remember? The time you lost your suspenders? Yes, it seems to be a habit of yours
Oh,
not to be very secure around the belt line. Tell me, Giovanni, how are the children? They must be nearly grown.
My oldest girl is 19 now, my boy 17, and my youngest girl 9 years old. The little one has a voice. She shouts good and loud.
Well, perhaps she will be a singer, too. I think it's charming, Giovanni, the way you always have a picture of your wife and children in the dressing room when you are singing.
And with them, a picture of St. Anthony.
Oh, of course, your patron saint. Giovanni,
Yes?
you've made this a very pleasant intermission for me, and I'm sure you've been giving our listeners an equal pleasure. Before you go, I want to tell our opera friends that we are to hear you a week from today in one of your most outstanding roles as Radames and Aida.
Yes. I hope I will have as friendly an audience as I had when I made my debut. Goodbye, Geraldine.
Goodbye, Giovanni.
Goodbye.
Addio, caro. Un gran bacione. Addio. Vai via. As I say farewell to my good friend and comrade, Giovanni Martinelli, I want to mention Kirsten Flagstaff, who is singing Isolde this afternoon, and as you have heard, is receiving a tremendous ovation for her magnificent performance. The presence today of this beautiful young artist brings to my mind an unforgettable journey I made in the summer of 1932 to her homeland, for she is the image of those tall, handsome Norwegians I had occasion to admire on their native heath. It was a day of gentle rain. No Norwegian, I hope, will take offense at this mention. In fact, I am sure they will agree to the mist that hovers over their grandiose fjords and magnificent mountain tops. On such a day, in Bergen, I set out on a sentimental pilgrimage to the home of Edvard Grieg. His white villa of modest proportions lies not far beyond the town, overlooking a fair lake dotted with small islands. The door invites one to enter from a prim little path bordered with flowers. Happily, no tourist is about. A rosy-cheeked caretaker motions me to enter, and I find myself in a beautiful paneled music studio. A magnificent Steinway is my immediate interest in the center of the room. I point to my heart, extend my hands, and caress the mute wood. This simple soul understands my longing and smiles as she opens the lid, disclosing the old ivory keys of the piano. Another gesture bids me to be seated, and I begin to play. The glorious instrument is in perfect tune. She stands aside with patient folded hands as I start to sing. This universally beloved song comes to my mind. I Love Thee by Edvard Grieg. Oh, my soul, oh, my sweetest yearning, deep in my heart one hope will always be. To thee, dear one, my thought is ever turning. I love thee, I love thee, I love thee to eternity. I love thee to all How easy to understand the gentle melancholy of the Norseman's particular musical expression. All his being seems inspired by such surroundings. Silver waters, caressing pines, cheerful bluebells, daisies, and buttercups that smile from the woodlawn paths in this lovely enclosure of his home. My eye sweeps the expanse of misty sky and the silver sheen of tranquil water. The caretaker beckons me still further, out a side door through the garden, down by the rippling tide where a modest cabin looks out over the charming panorama. A simple room of pine, a small upright piano, an easy chair, a table for papers, and a tiny stove for comfort on chilly days. Such was the workroom of the lovable Edvard Grieg, a beautiful memory to carry away with me. And so, radio friends, goodbye until we meet again next week.
We've been listening to Geraldine Farrar from the adjoining box, where she has her own little impromptu studio with her small upright piano. Her guest today was the celebrated tenor